On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank, it's Senior Bowl week, and we've got an interview with the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. We talked to Jim about the importance of this year's Senior Bowl now that the NFL Combine has been canceled, and we discuss every Sooner that will be there in Mobile. We bring you the latest OU football updates, including the early enrollees that are in Norman and the National College Football Roundup. We bring you the latest college football news, including Tennessee getting their new athletic director. We give you our winners and losers of NFL championship weekend. And we finish with some football guys talking basketball after OU's big win over Kansas. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Mike Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, January 25th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank. First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all, whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone. Everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank also provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank at First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. Now, we're recording this on Sunday night, and we have a really cool interview with Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl. This is a good football week, Ted, because we just watched the AFC and NFC championship games. Those were pretty damn entertaining. And now it's Senior Bowl week, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, Senior Bowl, and this year, I mean, it is fascinating. Obviously, it's going to be different than in years past, but there's going to be some cool stuff going on there. We're going to get to see some guys, and I think Oklahoma guys, this is the best way for them to stand out, and maybe some of those guys that we weren't really sure about have a chance to really run up some draft boards.
Yeah, and the cool thing with Jim, we go through each guy for OU that'll be down there in Mobile. We go through all of them. We even go through the Oklahoma State guys with him as well. So just really cool interview and really interesting to hear some of the things that they're doing differently because the combine's not happening. So did you enjoy the AFC? We'll get to it in our winners and losers, but that was a pretty good Sunday of football right there.
It was. It really was. A couple of those, the AFC game I thought was going to get interesting there, and they could just never get over the hump and get back in the thing. But dude, the NFC lived up to the hype. We got some controversy coming out of it, decision-making process and everything. So a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But let's start with the local college football, and that's brought to you by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience. There are temperature screenings at all entrances, and masks are required for all patrons and employees because your safety is Riverwind's number one priority. There are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's number one casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful, award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. For January's Kitchen Cash-In, all wildcard members that earn 500 points on GCG machines will win an Emerald Lagasse knife set. Bam! Look at Riverwind kick it up a notch. If you need help finding your way, just visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the one. Okay, a few bits and pieces of OU football news. They're here. The early enrollees.
Yeah.
Teddy, they have arrived. Fresh meat is on campus, and a lot, right? This seems like a lot of early enrollees. You've got Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, Latrell McCutcheon, Cody Jackson, Clayton Smith, Ethan Downs, Jordan Mukes, Isaiah Coe, and Nathan's Rollins Cabange. What is that, 9? I'm not good at math. Counting is not our strong suit, but that's 9.
I'll leave that up to you. I can go through it and see if I can get to 9 on that. But yeah, I think I'll take your word for it.
I
And
think
it's
it's
a good
9.
group, man. It's a good group, and cannot stress enough how important the early enrollee period is and what that does for guys, man. Just getting a semester under your belt before you go into training camp and into a season is so important. Just to know the guys, know your teammates, know your coaches, learn the strength and conditioning staff, have a little bit of that under your belt before you go into a brutal summer of workouts. And it's awesome. And it's almost like if you're not an early enrollee anymore, you're missing the boat.
Isn't that weird how it feels that way?
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like the guys that show up in June are behind. Like,
Mhm.
like you're almost at a disadvantage. I don't know about you, Teddy, but graduating high school early was not an option for me. Like Michigan McGinnis didn't do that. Like that wasn't a thing. And now it's become so common for these guys to give up part of their senior year of high school. And I can understand this year with how weird high
Yeah.
school has been. Like maybe it's not the same, but I've always found it so interesting that so many guys are like, yeah, I don't need that second semester of my senior year of high school. I just can't imagine doing that, man.
I agree. I mean, that my second semester of my senior year of high school is probably like maybe the most fun 5 months of my life. It was awesome. And, I wouldn't change that, but I do at the same time recognize how good it is to get that under your belt, to understand either the offense or the defense before you head into the season. Because, I mean, let's face it, most guys do not want a red shirt anymore. They want to be out there playing, contributing, be a starter in the two deep. And this is the best way to get that. So instead of having to work your way through the depth chart in training camp, whenever a lot of things are not necessarily set, but coaches have a really good idea of what they're going to do, you get to start being a factor in the spring. So I think it's huge. And you know, I a lot of these guys talked to a couple of the coaches last night, and whenever they had the guys on campus were not shocked, but big. This is a big group, secondary especially. It's a big group, a tall group. So it's exactly what they wanted out of this class.
Yeah, and you think about obviously a guy like Caleb Williams, the most important thing for him is learning the system, right? And you get a huge head start learning the system when you come in as an early enrollee. But you mentioned those guys that in the secondary. Like I look at the skill positions. Like you look at like a guy like Mario Williams, Latrell McCutcheon, right? Cody Jackson, Jordan Mukes. These guys like it's very important for them to start working on their physical development, right? In the weight room and stuff. Maybe start understanding the speed of college football. But and you could disagree with me, Ted, but I do think that the guys along the line of scrimmage, I do think coming in early is a huge advantage for a guy like Clayton Smith. Now I know Isaiah Coe's a JUCO kid, so it's a little different, but Nathan Rollins Cabange, a guy that is so raw when it comes to football, like this period is going to be huge for his development as a player. So I feel like it's really good for those guys that are going to play in the trenches or going to play at the line of scrimmage, because I don't know if people understand how big of a jump it is in the level of player. At least that's how it was for me.
Well, I mean, if you're a tackle, even in good, big high school football, I mean, there's times you're blocking like a 180-pound defensive end. You know what I'm saying? It's like that is not going to happen at the college level. So it's just a completely different level of player. And here's the other thing to think about. Quarterbacks, skill position guys, even defensive backs, these 7-on-7 camps in leagues where they just have endless amounts of reps doing what they do. I mean, and I know it's gotten better for line of scrimmage guys, but it's still not close to the amount of work that the skill position guys get. So I agree with you 100%. I'm just curious how, I'm not complaining, but how Caleb Williams can still be in high school and still do the full off season. I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's just strange. The dual enrollment.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but if the kid's going to be as good as we all think he's going to be, then I don't care. Glad he's a Norman. Good. Great. So good to have those guys on campus already. It's big advantage for them. They were able to make that work. Okay, Ted, the other thing I want to talk about, and I know he's not on the OU staff anymore, but it's a guy that you and I have both known for a long time, and we'd been hearing the same stuff for the last couple of weeks. And that was that Mike Stoops was going to be the next linebacker coach at Texas. And I remember when I was told about it, I was like, yeah, that's a little weird, but good for him. Like he's getting a, you know, a job that he's one of the 10 assistant coaches. Like it's still a really good job at a good school. Now, of course, I made the same jokes that everyone made, but and this is going to sound weird, but when I had heard that they were going to hire him, I got a little concerned. And it wasn't because Mike coached at OU. It wasn't because Mike is Bob's brother. It was because I know he's a good coach. And I thought that them bringing Mike Stoops to Texas kind of signaled that Steve Sarkisian was getting to make all the decisions and that the bureaucracy down there was leaving him alone. And that worried me a little bit. Like, oh no, the football people are actually going to get to make all the decisions themselves down in Austin. Oh no, that's a step in the right direction for Texas. This isn't what we want. And then it all plays out the way it does. And I was like, oh yeah, no, it's still Texas, Ted. It's definitely still Texas.
It's ridiculous. I mean,
it's absurd, man.
I feel terrible for Mike Stoops, by the way. This deal was done. It was done. He was flying in Friday morning. They were going to announce it. They're going to announce the whole staff, start getting to work. And, as soon as it really leaked out that that's what was going to happen, the donors, the fans started complaining and raising a ruckus. And, I heard a reporter from the Austin area say, well, it was just one of those things where the donors and the fans just didn't trust the hire, and said it like so matter of factly. And I was like, who cares if they trust the hire or not? I mean, you just paid a guy like $5 or $6 million a year to make the hire. You're not making the hire. You don't need to trust it. He trusts it. The guy that you put in charge of the program, he's making the hire. He trusts the hire. And it's just so normal down there that's the way things go. It's shocking to me. And it's why things are not going to be any different under Sarkisian. I think he's good X's and O's. We've been talking about this, but that's not the problem. It's the shark-infested waters in Austin. And they've already shown up before he even puts his staff together. I mean, think about this. And I know fans around here have their own thoughts about Mike Stoops and everything, but keep in mind, he was hiring as a linebacker coach, not as a defensive coordinator. He was hiring him as a linebacker coach. Here's a guy that in his last appearance at Oklahoma, he won 2 Sugar Bowls, 2 college football playoff appearances. He obviously has the national championship under his belt, his first go round. He's done as good a job as anyone, really better, at Arizona as a head coach there for 8 years, been an analyst on Saban's staff. I mean, the guy's resume is about as good as it can get. And for a position coach hire, that's a home run.
That is a ton of experience. That is someone you would say is overqualified, maybe even, right, to just be a position coach. So I just I felt horrible for Mike because the way that Texas went about it, and I can't imagine Sarkisian wanted to do it this way. I assume that his hand was forced, that he's got a boss that says, "Hey, you're not hiring that guy." I assume that's kind of how it had to go down.
Yeah. Well, Del Conte is Mike's boy. They're at Arizona together. He was Mike's like assistant AD at
I
Arizona.
mean, who in Texas bitched so much to where they changed their mind? That's what I want to know. Like
It
I
was
feel like
probably just I mean, it was probably just the right amount of people, the right amount of money behind what they say, and that's what works Texas, man.
what did
That's their problem. They can't see it down there. I don't know why, but that's their problem.
what did they think Mike Stoops was going to do? What, like sell OU the playbook? Like I don't understand. Like you don't want to have a quality position coach that has been a head coach and a coordinator and just spent several years with Nick Saban. Like you don't want that guy on the staff. What the I mean, what the hell?
Hey, I mean, it they will never recognize that their overwhelming desire to be involved, to meddle with the program, to be able to tell their rich buddies that they called up there to Steve Sarkisian and told them that he's not going to hire Mike Stoops. Like all of that crap is why they suck. That's why that program sucks. It's why it's always going to suck. It's because they can't get out of their own way. It's all about who's got influence over the program. It's like they don't even care about winning. It's about who can go brag about having the most pull up there at the football offices.
Yeah. So now instead of Mike Stoops, and we talked about all of his qualifications, what that resume looks like. Now it looks like it'll be Jeff Choate, who is going to leave Montana State to be the co-DC and inside linebackers coach there
Which,
at
you know,
Texas.
it's not saying that he's not going to be a great coach and do good things there. I don't know anything about the guy. He may be great, but it's still, the whole thing stinks and is stupid. And if they can't see how foolish they are, then they never will.
There's also just a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And the way that Texas treated Mike Stoops is wrong. That's how I view it. When I was getting the details of how it all happened, I was like, well, that's not how you treat people. And coaches will remember that. Some coaches will remember that, what they just did to Mike Stoops. People don't forget that type of stuff. So I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous. I feel horrible for Mike. He's always been extremely kind to me. I know that you love him, Ted. I mean, he can coach. And it's just ridiculous what they did. Okay. Let's move on to Call Your Shot. That's brought to you by Rock and Roll Tequila. Rock and Roll Tequila is the ultra premium tequila that hits all the right notes. It's won all kinds of awards for its superior taste and smooth finish. To find a store that has it, visit rockandrolltequila.com or check out their Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. This stuff is good. If you don't want to take my word for it, maybe you'll listen to this guy.
This is Coach Bob Stoops. When you're a college football coach, it's important to have an eye for talent. The same holds true when choosing your tequila. When I tried rock and roll, I liked it so much, I decided to become a partner in this Oklahoma-owned company. Crafted in the highlands of Jalisco, Mexico, the smooth taste of rock and roll's triple distilled platinum, or añejo, called Cristalino, and the incredible premium quality mango tequila are awesome. Our defiantly unique guitar-shaped bottles make it easy to find, and you'll love the ultra-premium quality and taste. No excuses. Make rock and roll your game day tequila. Tastefully rebellious, start the party with rock and roll.
And we asked y'all what was the most significant thing that happened for OU football this week. And our favorite comes from Andy at Andy Mancan20. He says, Mancan. Mancan? I don't know. Andy, do we think it's Mancan or Mankin?
I say we go with Man Can.
Man can. Nice. He says, so many of the 21 class forgoing their senior years and getting into the program in January. Huge, especially with the defensive talent that we signed. Ted, you mentioned that you had talked to a couple of coaches, and you look at these guys that are early enrollees on defense, Latrell McCutcheon, Jordan Mukes, Clayton Smith, Ethan Downs, Isaiah Coe, the JUCO kid, and then Nathan Rollins-Cabanche. Like, I don't know how many of them are going to contribute right away, but it seems like several of these guys could contribute right away. So I agree with our man can. It's pretty big to get these defensive players in early.
I agree. I think it's fantastic, and the great thing is the size on the back end defensively, and to get those guys in early. Some of the most critical, thinking, understanding of the defense comes, from the back forward. And if you just get that extra amount of time, like the way Grinch runs things, like in their limited amount of time that they have with these guys, I want to say that Odom told me, like the first winter they were here, the way they were doing things in their brief amount of time that they were able to be on the field with them, they got something like 300 run through reps, like fitting runs a week. And that amount of reps is just insane. Super fast, crisp, just kind of go through everything at, blazing speed while they're still there coaching the guys up and everything, but they got it down to where they can get through a ton of reps. So that being able to be out there on the field, lining up, going through some run fits before you even start spring ball, and then going through a full spring ball and getting yourself coached on film is just like, I mean, it's everything. And it's, quite frankly, it's why we see so many young guys more ready to play in college football than they've ever been.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that with the way that OU is recruited over the last couple of years and how they anticipate recruiting moving forward, it's important that these big time, highly recruited guys are able to come in and contribute immediately. Right now, you don't want to, you want to develop guys. Obviously, you want to create that depth that you see at like a Bama or a Clemson. And I think that OU's headed that way. They're certainly headed in the right direction. But you look at these 9 guys that are in early, these are all really talented players. And it's going to be interesting. I've got my eye on a guy like Clayton Smith, right, that I think could be an immediate impact guy just as a situational pass rusher. So
I'll tell you what's amazing is, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, like I was going through it the other day, there's like 10 guys on the defensive line and edge that I expect to be big time contributor next year. Like we went from
good problem to have.
Yeah, we went from like the cupboard is bare and we've got to get some more guys in here to like, how are we going to get all these guys on the field? I mean, it's a great problem to have, and that just tells you everything about the development, because we're just now starting to get this defensive staff's I want to say draft picks, but their recruits starting to roll through. Most of these guys are from the last regime. They've just been developed so well over the last 2 years that, I mean, Isaiah Thomas, I expect to have a chance to be Big 12 Player of the Year next year, Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, Roberson, Jordan Kelly, Ellison. I mean, all these guys were good, solid contributors, and I expect them to be better next season.
It'd be really nice if Isaiah Coe can bring something similar to what Perion Winfrey brought. That would now that's probably asking a lot of Isaiah Coe, but hey, if he can get up to speed quickly, he's a physically gifted kid.
I'll tell you something, man, and I totally believe in this. Whenever you come into a situation, you quickly get to that level. Whether it's a high level or a low level, you quickly adapt and you don't stick out like a sore thumb. Most places is like there's like a bit of a bell curve where most guys fit in this area, but most guys get in there really quickly. And the better you are, the better your room is, the better these guys that come in gear up and get up to speed really quickly. So the better the room is, the more hits you have in recruiting and junior college guys. So maybe he's not going to be on Perion Winfrey's level, but I expect to get good, solid play right away.
What's the saying where the tide lifts all the boats or whatever?
That's right.
I think that's what you're saying.
That's right.
It's something about boats. And in this case, defensive linemen are boats. I think I'm understanding.
Float, and the new guys should float as well.
Exactly. Well said, sir. Well said. All right, let's move on to our interview with Jim Nagy, and that's brought to you by Insurica. Do you own a business? If you do, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica. Wow. What word did I even just say there?
Insurica.
I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. Okay, here's Jim Nagy. It is our pleasure to be joined by the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy is in the house. Jim, what's going on, man?
Appreciate you having me, man. Good to be on.
A couple of Senior Bowl alums now. Teddy's doing one of his 12 other jobs right now, so it's just me and you, buddy. So, but he did send me some questions. But
okay,
let's just start here. I got some questions just about the game before we dive into some individual players. We saw what college football players had to go through this season with all the precautions that were taken, with all the protocols that were in place. Was there ever a thought that the Senior Bowl might not happen, or was this something that you guys always felt confident was going to take place?
Yeah, there was that. And the first things first, I'll start by saying we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think we could do it safely. And that really, we had to get to that point. We had to do a lot of research and talk to a lot of folks, whether it be at the college level, the NFL level, infectious disease people through our hospital network down here. So, but once we got to that point, yeah, we've been pretty steadfast in making this thing happen once we knew we could pull it off safely. And back to your intro to the question, what these players went through, right, this fall, and just talking to my friends in the NFL on a daily basis and what they had to go through to get through this season. We felt really compelled to pull this week off because these guys have had, you look at the Big 12 or the Pac-12 and the Big 10 players that this whole season pulled out from under them, then just be reinstated. The Pac-12 guys played 4 games in some cases, and then the NFL guys, you just talk from like a scouting perspective. Some of these scouts were out at games this fall, but none of these decision makers that are going to be pulling the names off the board in April have seen any players. I've spoken to one GM in the entire league this year that saw players on Saturdays, and that was only because he didn't rejoin his team on Sunday. He was good with not, re-entering his team's bubble, which he couldn't do if he went to a college game. So he felt like he served his team best by going to see college players, whereas everyone else I've talked to, and it's to their own prerogative, but most of those guys traveled with their team on Sunday. So this will be the NFL's first chance to eyeball these players and sit face-to-face with these players. And it's the players' only opportunity to really get in front of these teams now that we know the combine's not going to happen.
Yeah, you guys are constantly evaluating the players, the guys that you're going to invite to the game, but you're also communicating with the teams about who they want to get invited. So how much more difficult was it this year? Because normally you guys are going on the road. You're seeing these guys up close. You're putting all those videos out on your Twitter page of guys where you're standing 5 feet from them, right? How much more difficult was it just having to evaluate guys on tape rather than being able to go see them physically in person?
Yeah, that's a big part of it, and you know that. I mean, I think it's kind of the understated thing about scouting is the body type. So guys' growth potential, and school might list him at 6'3", 300, and he's really like 6'1", 280.
Schools
so
would
that
never
had,
do that, Jim. What are you talking about? Come on, man.
So that was difficult, but you can only work with what you have. So we had all the tape. We had 18, 19, and 20 tape to base our decisions on. But yeah, without that eyeball test, it really was difficult at some of these positions when you've got like undersized will linebackers. You're like, how big are they? And I had to reach out to some schools this fall and ask. You lost me there for a minute, didn't you?
Yeah, I got you though.
Okay. We had to reach out to some schools, and I'd be like, this guy looks a little small on tape. What's his current weight? And, again, he was listed at 215. They're like, yeah, he was weighed in yesterday at 204. Like, I can't bring a 204 pound linebacker to the Senior Bowl. So it had its challenges, definitely not having guys out on the road this fall.
Now, you mentioned the NFL Combine, the Combine as we know it, right? Not going to take place. There's not going to be the gathering of all the NFL decision makers there in Indianapolis. So what does that change for you guys? What does that change for what the prospects will be going through there in Mobile? Are you guys going to do anything special for coaches that aren't feel comfortable attending the Senior Bowl and all these things? Like what does that put on your plate now that normally would have been handled at the Combine?
Yeah, a couple things. So we are limiting the amount of NFL people that can come to Mobile this year to 10 per club.
Really?
Some years,
okay.
Yeah, we had to draw the line somewhere just from a COVID testing, from an expenditure standpoint, and what we're spending on the COVID testing, but also, we can't create a bubble. Usually most years there's 900 NFL people down here. That's a pretty big bubble. So we were really trying to, tighten up our bubble. So, we're the practices in the game are going to look the same, really. But, like for weigh-in, for instance, we've never videoed the weigh-in before. We've never taken like the video body shots and still shots of the players before they get up on the podium. We're going to do that this year and distribute those to the teams, which they do at the Combine every year. The key thing for us was making sure we could, ensure the players and the teams that they were going to get face-to-face interviews, because the rest of the spring will probably look like what you and I are doing right now, and Zooms are great, and we've all kind of learned to live in that world. But I do think there's something to be said from sitting across from someone. Again, that included we had to bring in a plexiglass person this year. I never saw myself in the Senior Bowl role interviewing plexiglass salesmen, but we found myself in that place this year. So we bought $12,000 worth of plexiglass for team interviews. So there's so much down to it, but just to pull everything off, that face-to-face interaction and make sure these two, the players in the NFL connect, we just had to do everything we could.
Plexiglass specialists. They need to add that to your title, Jim. Now, normally with the Senior Bowl, you're looking at two staffs that were towards the bottom of the league that are going to coach in the game, right? And I wasn't shocked, but I was certainly really surprised when I saw that it was going to be the Dolphins staff and the Panthers staff. You look at the Dolphins, that's a team that barely missed the playoffs. And the Panthers, it's not like they were at the very bottom of the NFC standings. So how did all of that work? How did you end up with Brian Flores and that Dolphins staff and Matt Rule and that Panthers staff?
It's a great question. First, I'll say I'm really happy it's the Dolphins and the Panthers, because Brian Flores is one of my best friends. We worked in New England for a long time. He's the best. And I've known Matt for going back 20 years when he was a GA at UCLA. So to have two guys that I'm really familiar with, it's been low maintenance. It's been great communication back and forth. So I'm glad those were the two teams that we ended up with. But that is the league office's decision. The league office football ops does that. They really start at the draft order. Like you said, we rarely get out of that top 5, top 10 area. Carolina picking 8 makes sense, but they had to get all the way to Miami at 18 to get a second team. So right off the bat, the top 5 teams were out because they all had coaching changes. What made it a little differently this year too is the amount of GM turnover. So there was teams that just weren't comfortable committing without a GM on board. And then you add into the COVID, there was a couple teams with coaches that are in their 60s and just weren't really comfortable coming down and doing it. So that's kind of how we got all the way to the Dolphins. But because of that trade with the Houston Texans for Laramie Tunsil, they are sitting at 3 in the draft. So, and that allowed us to get a guy like Devontae Smith earlier this week, the Heisman Trophy winner. Like, that was part of the sales pitch to Devontae and his representatives. So, like, hey, let him come down here and hang out with the team that's got the number 3 pick, and everyone's already their fan base in Miami's already trying to connect the dots and get Tua, his guy, back down to Miami to work with him. So yeah, it was a different year. Usually we are in that top 10, and it kind of fell to Miami this year.
Yeah, you mentioned Devontae Smith going to be able to do all the things off the field, right? Not going to participate in the practices or the actual game with that hand injury, but still a great opportunity. Now, I did see something that you guys were really excited about, obviously, was that you have convinced Mac Jones to participate this week. And he's going to do the on-field stuff. And that seems like a guy that has a lot to gain. You mentioned the sales pitch you had for Devontae Smith. When guys are on the fence between participating in the Senior Bowl or not, what's kind of the pitch? What do you go with? What do you kind of cite as the main reasons that some of these elite players should play or should participate in Senior Bowl week?
Yeah, couple layers to that answer. The first, specific to Mac, I thought it was a no-brainer. So you've got Trevor Lawrence, nobody's catching him. You've got Zach Wilson at BYU, Justin Fields at Ohio State, Trey Lance at North Dakota State. Those 3 players don't even have the opportunity to come here, right? Mac does, and everyone, like, Mac's kind of slotted in for all the guys on Twitter and the internet is the the 5th guy. Well, he's going to come down here. He's got a chance to leapfrog at least one or maybe a couple of those guys. And the other thing, we've had 5 top 10 quarterbacks in the last 4 years. So you go back to even Carson Wentz. Carson was like a late 1, early 2, kind of where Mac's at right now. He went 2nd overall. Justin Herbert last year was like a middle 1. He went 6th. Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield were more middle to late first round, and they went in the top, number 2 and number 1 and number 6. So we've got a really recent track record of what quarterbacks have done coming out of the week, which is pretty easy. That's a pretty easy sell. And really, like, big picture about the value of the Senior Bowl. And again, obviously I believe in it, or I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now. Just being a scout and coming down here for 20 years, I've seen what this game can do for guys. And I always think the mindset, it was twisted, right? Like, you can come down here as a 6th rounder, like Terry McLaurin did a couple of years ago out of Ohio State, and go in the 3rd round. And that's a big jump. 3 rounds is a big jump. But, like, monetarily, I think this game makes the most sense for the first round guys. If you go from 18 to 14, you made more money than Terry McLaurin did jumping 3 rounds. If you go from 8 to 4, we're talking like $12 million. So why not? You're a good football player. What do you have to hide? If you're not, and I've told all the agents, if you've got a guy that's the number 1 guy, unquestioned in his position group, I get it. Like Derek Brown last year from Auburn. He was the clear-cut inside D tackle. I didn't fight Drew Rosenhaus on that one at all, and he ended up going 7. No, even in that case, like, he could have come down and jumped somebody ahead of him. He could have jumped Jeff Okudah from Ohio State. It doesn't have to just be position group, but I'm trying to change that kind of that mindset of, this game is only for guys that are outside the first round. I think it makes more sense for the guys at the top of the draft.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at it, and certainly different than a lot of people view this game. Like, I think a lot of people view it as a way for those, middle round guys to help themselves. And you're right. I think everyone can help themselves. Now, before we talk about the OU guys, I do want to ask, I don't know if you have any horror stories or anything like that, but how much can a prospect really hurt himself going to the Senior Bowl? And I'm not talking about injury. I'm talking about, what he says in the interviews, that type of stuff. Like, are there any stories you have where, and you don't have to mention specific names, where a guy just completely underwhelms, or teams are just like, oh my gosh, there's no chance we can bring this guy into our organization?
Well, I'll just go back to how I was raised in scouting. I started off in Green Bay back in '96, and Ron Wolf was the GM. And, just kind of that Ron Wolf way. He's got the Ron Wolf tree in scouting has branched off quite a bit. And, it goes back predating Ron Wolf. Like, you're always taught as a scout, all-star games can only help players. They can't hurt players, so at the end of the year, some guys are banged up. I mean, down here in a week like this, it's unfamiliar. You're learning a playbook. Like, there's a lot of variables. So to me, it's like, we always looked at it from the teams I worked for as like, these guys are making a statement. They're not afraid. They're competitive. They love football. They're wired the way we want them to be wired. So I again, could a guy hurt themselves that come down here and just look terrible? Probably, but again, they wouldn't be getting the invite if we didn't think they were really good football players. Every single guy we invite, we feel like is a draftable player. Now, sometimes they don't end up all getting drafted because a medical red flag that pops up at the combine, or an off the field thing that pops up that we weren't aware of at the game, or a slow 40 time. It's like, to me, I would always take the Senior Bowl invite, because if we're inviting you, you're a good football player. This is what you do best. So like, there was a circumstance a couple years ago with a DB who had really high grades coming out of the football season. He turned down a Senior Bowl invite. I knew he wasn't going to test well. The people at the school said, Jim, this guy's going to run slow. He plays a lot faster. He's got great eyes and instincts. I'm like, absolutely. We love him as a football player. Well, he turned down the Senior Bowl invite, went to the combine, ran slow, and went in the 5th round. So to me, if you're a good football player, come play football. And if you want to duck out of something, duck out of the combine. But anyway, so no, I can't come with a particular instance, but I think guys can only help themselves.
Right. Okay, let's get to some of these players for Oklahoma that you're going to have down in Mobile. And let's start with the most important position on the football field. And of course, that's center. You know that, Jim.
Yeah, of course.
And Creed Humphrey played a ton of football for OU at a high level. What has your staff seen from Creed as you've evaluated him for this game? And is this a situation where you want to see him play some guard because that's not something he's done at OU? Or do you think, hey, this is where we want to see him only at center?
We had that talk this morning with the Panther staff, and I said, we got a call this afternoon with the Dolphins. I want all these players to show some versatility, right? Like, there's probably part of the league thinks that Creed is a center only, and that's okay if you're going to be a starter, which Creed's going to be. It's those backup guys where you're worried about the position flex. You can't have like a one position backup on a 53-man roster. It's difficult, as you know. So yeah, but Creed's all the OU fans know what Creed is. I mean, he's been a great player there. He's super instinctive. He's super tough. You love the wrestling background. Someone's going to draft him to be their starter next year. I mean, he projects as a year 1 starter. Where that gets picked, I mean, that's where Creed can come down and really help himself, right? But again, he's going to be a rookie starter for somebody. So just a really solid player. The makeup, checks out. He's off the charts and all the intangibles, football character stuff. So, he checks all those boxes. Now it's getting him down here and letting him be around these teams. And really, those guys benefit a ton. They spend a week with the teams. They're going to want that guy on their football team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, usually only about one center going in the first round. It'll be interesting to see if he can play himself into that conversation. No doubt in my mind, at the, very worst, a day 2 guy that, like
Right.
you said, will be, or I could see him being a backup, but I would be surprised if he's not starting as a rookie next year. Now, a guy for Oklahoma that he's shown some good things, but some people were a little surprised he came out, was Adrian Ely. Now, he's got the size, right? He's been coached extremely well by Bill Bedenbaugh there at Oklahoma, but there's such a premium on the offensive tackle position. And you look at this class, just the guys you're going to have in this game. I mean, this is a stacked offensive tackle class. So how can Adrian Ely help himself during Senior Bowl week? What does he have to show to maybe climb those offensive tackle rankings?
Yeah, you talked about his coaching and you nailed it. Bill does a great job. And I spoke to Bill over the summer about Creed. He mentioned Adrian, and I'll say this: Adrian did make a big jump this year from sophomore to junior tape. When I looked at him over the summer, he was a guy that, to me, just wasn't a guy that was ready to be an early, quote unquote, early out guy. He looked like a guy that should go back to school. Well, he did make a good enough jump this year where it made sense for him to do it. Like you said, tackle is a premium position right now. He's a mountain of a man. He's got nice feet for a guy that size and mobility. Do I think his best football is ahead of him? Absolutely. Had he gone back to Oklahoma, do I think he could have maybe helped himself? Absolutely. But I also understand the player's perspective on that as well. again, for these guys, like we talked about, the players had a tough year. I don't think people realize how hard it was. Some of these kids are just worn out at this point, right? Like just going through COVID and the yo-yoing nature of the season, just the instability. Some of these guys are just mentally done, as a lot of people are in all walks of life. I think a lot of us are just mentally done with what we're going through. So no, Adrian, again, you look at our tackle class, we really put an emphasis on bringing tackles down here. And if we got to pinch them in there at guard for the week, that's fine. We just want to bring the best football players, because the tackles are the harder guys to find. You know, we talk to the, buddies in the league all the time, and they're like, bring as many tackles as you can. So, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with this class. And again, Adrian's got a chance to really make a nice jump this week.
You got Romandre Stevenson down there in Mobile, and he's a guy that's really impressed people with that combination of size, power, speed. But it seems like the biggest question for Romandre is that top end speed. And I assume teams around the league, the Dolphins included, who will be coaching him throughout the week, they're interested at seeing what his speed looks like in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Top end speed is the most overrated trait for a running back.
Thank you.
I'll start it with that. It's about short bursts, not top end speed. Very rarely at the NFL level do you see guys ripping off 50, 60-yard runs. The NFL game is built on that guy that can get the 10 to 20-yard run consistently. And Romandre can do that. He is a really cool player. We saw it the second half of this year when he came back and what he was able to do. 240-pound guys with those kind of feet, I'll use an old Belichick term, they don't grow on trees. So he's exactly what the NFL is looking for. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And he's a really cool player. I'm glad we got him. And again, you can't begrudge a running back. I know he did get that extra year of eligibility, which all the players got this year. But for a running back, I mean, it's a short shelf life. The NFL has kind of devalued that position. So to me, you got to kind of strike while the iron's hot. He had such a good year at Oklahoma that I think it was the right time for him to come out.
Right. And, minimal mileage, right? We always talk about the tread on the tires for running back. No
doubt.
That's
a huge part of it as well. He goes back for another year and logs another, couple hundred carries. The league's going to see that as a negative, not a positive.
Right. Okay. So Trey Norwood is a guy I was really excited to see get the Senior Bowl invite. This is a guy that played a lot of different positions for Alex Grinch, showed that versatility, made a lot of plays on the ball, right? Racked up some interceptions. But are you guys going to evaluate him at a certain position during Senior Bowl week? Do teams want to see him at a specific position, or is he going to move around just like he did in Alex Grinch's defense?
Yeah, Trey's a cool player, and he really fell into our laps late. We've worked really hard to identify these juniors just so we're ready. Like we built the board out. You can't get to January with inviting 120 seniors and then have all these juniors come out and be like, well, what do? We don't have spots open. So we had a bunch of guys accounted for. Trey was not one of them. We did not know he was going to graduate. And frankly, we didn't know he was going to come out. So when he did come out and declare, got hit up by an agent, I'm like, well, let me get to work. So we put on the tape. He's a super instinctive player. And you talk about position versatility. Yes, he's going to be down here playing nickel. He's going to be playing free safety. Because to me, that's what he is. There's kind of a trend right now in the league of going to that tweener nickel safety type player. He reminds me a lot of a guy, Mike Edwards from Kentucky, who he had in the game a couple of years ago, went in the fourth round, and now he'll be playing this weekend. He's the starting nickel for the Buccaneers. And Trey's got great eyes. He really anticipates. He's got great ball skills, as we saw this year. He can really finish when he's in position. And he'll be cross-training at both those two spots.
Nice. That's good to hear. And one last Oklahoma guy, Trey Brown. There is absolutely no doubt that this guy has speed. Now, not exactly the ideal size for an outside corner, but also can certainly factor in when it comes to the return game. He feels like a guy that can make a lot of money, that can really, really boost his stock during the Senior Bowl week.
Yeah, speed is a big deal at corner. Like I said, it's not as big a deal at running back. Speed is a big deal at corner. Teams place a premium on that, and Trey's one of the fastest corners in this draft. So again, a lot of times those nickel-ish guys are quicker than fast, and Trey's one of the unique guys that's quick and really fast. So he's going to help himself. Again, when you have an overwhelming trait, whether it's size or speed, we always talk about it in scouting that you feel it when you're in person. Like when people see Najee Harris walk up on him, like he looks big on tape, they know Najee's a big back. But when they see a guy like Nagy or Romandre, they're going to be like, whoa, this dude is big. We're not, nobody's going to want to tackle this guy. And same thing with Trey. When they see him run at field level, they're going to feel that speed. So that's going to help Trey a lot.
Then a couple of Oklahoma State guys that you'll have down there in Mobile. We've talked about Rodarius Williams before, kind of the ideal body type now at corner. But Tylan Wallace, you and I, we both love this guy, plays so much bigger than he is. One of the best competitive catchers I've seen in person since I've been watching football. Like, the guy is just a competitor. You got to be really excited to have both of those Oklahoma State Cowboys down there.
Yeah, Rodarius first. He climbed up our board as much as maybe anyone in this class. We had a late round grade on him over the summer, and the biggest difference was the ability to finish. He was in position to make some plays as a junior. Came back this year and he made them. So you look at his PVU numbers were way up. He just played more dialed in. Like there was just kind of a little. He was just more focused, more dialed in. He was really on it this year. And when you talk to his position coach, he said the same thing. Like Rodarius knew it in the offseason. That's where he had to tighten up, was just that mental focus and coverage. And it paid off huge for him. And then Tylan, yeah, I think you and I could sit here and talk for an hour about how much we like Tylan. And you nailed it. Throw out the measurables. I don't know, whatever they list him at, 5'11", 185 or 6 foot 185. Guy plays like he's 6'4", 225, especially on the ball. But he's a great route runner. So this week sets up perfectly. He's going to turn guys inside out. And then his ability to play big on the football and make those contested plays and that catch radius stuff is pretty awesome.
All right, Jim, how can people support you guys? What can, our listeners do to support the Senior Bowl? Going to be on TV, I assume, the NFL Network stuff again. Let us know. Plug whatever you want to plug here.
Not a big plug guy, but yeah, practice. So fans can watch it. Practice will be on all 3 days in the NFL Network. It's going to be on Wednesday and Thursday on ESPN as well. They'll have their full crew of guys down here, all their draft guys, Todd and Lewis Riddick and all those guys, NFL Network, DJ and Daniel Jeremiah and all the guys they have. So it's going to be great. We'll have a lot of people here. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow the Senior Bowl on Twitter. And what I'm trying to do this year is do a lot of like behind the scenes stuff, whether it's in meeting rooms or we don't really have a training table this year. Everything's box and go meals, so the guys can take them up to the room, so we're not congregating eating. But just going to try to give some guys some behind the scenes look at the week and what it looks like.
Sounds awesome, Jim. Hey, really appreciate the time, man. Thank you.
Yeah, Gabe, thanks for having me on, man. Anytime.
Man, Jim Nagy's doing a really good job down there with that event in Mobile. It keeps getting better and better. Ted, they've embraced the social media stuff more. I think they've done a great job of getting that game a ton of exposure.
Yeah, and this is just yet another event where you've got to pat everyone on the back, because the easy thing to do is throw your hands up in the air and say, we're not going to be able to pull it off this year, guys. But everyone keeps being real creative, finding cool ways to get things done, and the Senior Bowl's no different. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's move on to the National College Football Roundup. That's brought to you by Tim Hughes Custom Homes. Are you looking to build your dream home? If so, Tim Hughes is the man you're looking for. Tim Hughes Custom Homes is a one-stop shop for all your home building needs. He can find you a lot. He can find you an architect. He'll find you financing. And, of course, he can build your dream home exactly the way you want it. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, Tim found my wife and me a lot. He found us an architect and built our new house. Tim and his team were so easy to work with. He is still helping us when we have questions about things around the house. He also has built several office buildings. So if your business is looking to build a custom office, Tim Hughes is your man. You can see Tim's custom builds throughout Gaillardia, Nichols Hills, Oak Tree, Stone Mill, and Rose Creek. It is a great time to build the house of your dreams. For more information to see Tim's spectacular work, visit his Instagram page at Tim Hughes Custom Homes or visit timhughescustomhomes.com. Okay, just a couple of things when it comes to college football news. Let's start out in the Pac-12. Larry Scott is out as Pac-12 commissioner. And of course, it's a big deal when one of the Power 5 conferences has a change in leadership. Like it is going to affect college football. The Pac-12 fired him or didn't renew his contract, whatever you want to say, but you can put it however you want. You can sugarcoat it if you like, but this is a guy that I will say this. He did do some good things for the Pac-12. The conference did expand under his leadership, added Utah and Colorado. And remember, took a big swing, right, trying to create the Pac-16, went after OU in Texas. It didn't work, but the effort was there from Larry Scott. Now, the biggest criticism of his tenure, right, is that their TV deal is just a disaster. And that's true. He just couldn't get distribution deals done for the Pac-12 network. And although there's some really good stuff on Pac-12 network and it's done really well, no one gets to see it because they couldn't work out the distribution deals. So I think that his leadership will not be missed by a lot of people out that way. It seems like he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Well, I know he catches a lot of arrows for what's happened in the Pac-12. My whole thing is, the reason they can't get the Pac-12 network distributed and picked up by people is because no one in the Pac-12 is any good. If you're winning a bunch of football games and you've got fan bases that are clamoring for football, people would die to pick that up. College football is the greatest thing in the world, right? TV, advertisers love college football. The ratings are incredible. Whenever you win, whenever you're competitive, whenever you are relevant in what's going on, and quite frankly, they just haven't been relevant. USC, their cash cow, hasn't done anything. They've been terrible. I mean, Oregon had a couple of brief little runs there, but since Chip Kelly left, they've been underwhelming. I mean, Washington, they got in, but I mean, it's way too few and far between for competitive football games. And the real big thing is they are, because of where the major amount of college football watchers are in this country, that whenever their stuff is on, most people are drunk and passed out by the time their games are coming on TV after starting for 11 a.m. kickoffs, right?
Well, remember, they did do some 9 a.m. local kicks to try to kind of combat that. Now, I will say this. Larry Scott's received a lot of criticism for maybe not emphasizing football and basketball enough, right? The real money makers out there in that conference. But I think you're right, Ted. There's not a sport on planet Earth that is more regionalized than college football. And I really just don't know how much people out there care about college football. And I don't know if that can be pinned on Larry Scott. You know what I'm saying?
I'll tell you what, if USC is number 5 in the country and Oregon's number 7, you can kick it off at 7 a.m. You can kick it off at noon. You can kick it off at 4 in the morning. All right. If you've got two teams that are top 10 football teams that are fighting to win their conference, that's a tough conference, and going to a college football playoff where the outcome in that game matters, people are going to watch. They're going to watch in huge numbers. The problem is they don't have any of those games in that conference right now. The football's bad. And I understand that the players, a lot of them want to get out of there and go somewhere where the fan bases care about football.
You want to hear a crazy stat? So only 2 of the 12 presidents that hired Larry Scott are left at the Pac-12 schools. Isn't that like impossible to believe? Only 2 of 12.
That's crazy.
But we're over here criticizing Larry Scott. Joke's on us, man. He made like $40 million as the commissioner there out of the Pac-12.
I'll take 40 mil.
Yeah, I'd take people not liking me and thinking I'm bad at my job for 40
I do
mil.
that. I'd take people not liking me now and don't make squat. So
Exactly. We'd be perfect for that role. Okay, Tennessee, right? They hired Danny White away from UCF to be the new athletic director there in Knoxville. And by all indications, this is a really, really good hire for the University of Tennessee. Did a really good job of building up that football program at UCF. Now, the whole declaring the national championship was a little over the top and very, very annoying for the rest of us. But I will say this, UCF people loved it. I mean, they loved it. And I know that Tennessee fans are probably a little different than UCF fans, and they're going to have to win actual national championships for Tennessee fans to be happy.
That may not be true because they claim a couple of the same national championships that we claim. So I don't know that they may let a couple of things slide there.
That fan base there at Tennessee, they've claimed a couple of recruiting national championships the last couple of years, and those have not worked out well for them. But it's just interesting because clearly Danny White's going to be the guy that is going to hire the next football coach there, and he's hired some pretty good ones. You talk about Scott Frost, Josh Heupel, Lance Leipold. Like he's had a good eye for talent, so he's got to crush that football hire. We all know that's the most important thing for an athletic director. So it's going to be interesting to see who he goes with.
You think Hype's a candidate?
I hope he is. Right. I'll say this.
I don't know. I mean, I'm
UCF.
I don't know how good of a job it is.
That's where you start thinking about. I think it's somewhere in like the 7 or 8 range, just in the SEC.
Yeah. Well, you got to play Georgia every year, Florida every year, and Alabama every year. Those 3 teams right there. Those are 3 top 10 teams. From where they look right now, I think Florida, Georgia, Alabama are going to be top 10 teams every single year for the foreseeable future. So that's what you're stuck with. So,
we got to remember with the investigation that's going on at Tennessee, like coaches are going to be probably a little cautious when it comes to taking that job. Now, you can build those things in, right? And I know it's built into some other contracts. I was doing some research about it the other day. I think it's in Mel Tucker's. He's got one there, I think, at Michigan State, where like if they get sanctioned for things that happened before he was there, like his contract actually gets extended by a couple years. Like, so you can build that type of stuff in. And that's probably what Danny White in Tennessee, that's probably what they're going to have to end up doing, because no agent in their right mind is going to let one of their clients sign a deal without some of that stuff built in to protect them.
Don't you feel like if you hire an AD that you really like the people that he's hired and he likes the people that he's hired? I mean, if he comes there and Josh Heupel's not even on his list, I mean, that would be kind of odd. That would kind of make him look bad, wouldn't it? So you got to feel like Heupel's got to be at least on that list somewhere.
Well, okay, I may be crazy, and I know some people feel a certain way about UCF, because I do think a lot of people got really annoyed with the national championship thing they did. But I think it's easier to go play in a New Year's Six game at UCF than it is at Tennessee.
It is.
I think that's actually kind of obvious. It comes down to Tennessee being able to pay a lot of money.
Well,
I just don't know how much they'll offer,
Here's another factor too, because the 14 playoff has really benefited the same like 4 or 5 football teams since this thing has gotten rolling. And those teams are reaping all of the benefits. So,
spilled water all over myself, Teddy. It's everywhere. Oh God, it's everywhere.
So here's the thing. There's been a lot of talk about expanding to an 18 playoff. If I'm at UCF and there's talk of expanding to an 18 playoff, well, all of a sudden UCF is a hell of a coaching spot.
And UCF is a huge school too. A lot of people don't realize that's massive.
Biggest. It's got like 70,000 undergrad or something, right?
It's massive.
So, and you're right there, great recruiting territory. So if they expand to 8, UCF has a chance to make the playoff a lot. And that's going to be a huge equalizer whenever it comes to jobs like that or jobs in the American. in some of your other middle tier Power 5 football programs.
Yeah, in that case, and it's going to expand to 8 eventually. I think we all realize that's inevitable, but yeah, I think UCF will make the college football playoff more under that new format than Tennessee will. I just really don't know how good of a job Tennessee is anymore. I don't have a great gauge for it. Maybe it's because I've never been to Knoxville, and there's some people that say it is an awesome college town. It seems like it's going to be really, really difficult, especially who knows what's going to come out once the NCAA investigation's done. Like, are they going to be working with less scholarships? Like, what are the recruiting limitations going to be? Like, I don't know. But Danny White's a good AD. I mean, he's got a great track record. So I think that is a hire that should excite a lot of people around that program. One last thing, Alan Bowman transferring from Texas Tech will be a grad transfer. I haven't seen anything about where he is thinking about going, but Ted, this is a guy that you and I have liked at times, but ever since that lung injury and then the re-injuring of the lung, he's never really been the same, man.
No, and I think this new offense down there doesn't really suit him either. He's an air raid guy.
Right.
This has like SMU or North Texas or something like that written all over it, in my opinion. We know this. He's got a huge arm. He can fire the ball all over the field. He's fairly athletic, but, for whatever reason, just never really got over the hump. But, look out. If he goes to the right place, has the right fit in the right offense, he could make some noise out there.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with the eligibility stuff, he's going to be a grad transfer that has 3 years of eligibility, which it just saying it out loud, it doesn't make any sense that the guy's a grad transfer. He's got 3 years left to play.
And once you've graduated, aren't the rules on like hours and everything, like, isn't that like gone? All you have to do is be enrolled, right?
Yeah, he's got to take something. He's got to start working on a master's or start a new
take like
major or something.
3 hours a semester or something like that. You just have to be enrolled. I don't think there's like a minimum where you got to complete 12 or 15 or whatever it is. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So he's going to go somewhere. I'm sure we'll find out soon. Someone's going to want him. The guy can spin it. All right, let's move on to our winners and losers of the weekend. AFC NFC Championship edition, and Teddy's winners and losers are brought to you by Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs. They'll help you execute a realistic and achievable weight loss plan designed for you and only you. They've got all kinds of treatments for men and women. Their licensed and trained experts combine diet and exercise with hormone therapies to maximize your results. If you're struggling with low libido or low energy, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs can help with that too. They also offer Botox and fillers. To get on the path to losing weight, call 918-241-LOSE or visit their Facebook page. If you mention the podcast, you will get a free fat burner injection. Okay, Ted, who you have as your winner of the weekend?
Okay, so this is a little counterintuitive because he lost the game, but my winner is Aaron Rodgers. And the reason is, if you paid attention here recently, there's been some really cryptic stuff from A-Rod on whether or not he's going to be in Green Bay. And the same thing happened post-game. He's like, I really honestly don't know what my future holds. Don't know where I'm going to be next year. And the reason he's a winner is because he's due to make $36 million this next season. And
it's not Larry Scott money, but it's close. It's close.
Whenever you start talking about you don't know where you're going to be and you're going to have to look at things and evaluate and all of that, and you just had your best season as a pro in the regular season, like 45 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, in my opinion, should be the MVP of the league. That gives you some really, really, really good options, whether it's trade, which there's no way Green Bay is going to trade him, or re-up in an extension. He's in a really good position with his future at Green Bay. sucks they didn't win the football game, but as far as like being able to decide what he wants to do moving forward, Aaron Rodgers is in a great spot.
Yeah, and I thought he played well. I did. I think it finally, and we talked about it maybe finally coming into factor, them not having David Bakhtiari, and I think it did finally in this game. You really noticed his
That's a big
his
drops
absence
out there too.
Yeah, yeah. What was up with that for both teams? Like Brady had some, or
well, it was horribly cold out there. That
doesn't help things.
It's like catching a rock or something hard, but you know, what was it? Was it that 2-point play where he throws a drill bit that hits the guy right in the chest?
Come on, Equinemius St. Brown, or
he almost stuck it into his face mask like in Necessary Roughness. It was so on target. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a good game. It was an interesting game, but he's in a great position moving forward, whether he wants to go play somewhere else or he wants more money to play in Green Bay.
Yeah. Do you think Jordan Love's going to play a single game on his rookie deal?
I don't know, man. If you're a Green Bay fan, you better hope he doesn't. You know, I mean, he could be a good player. He's got great size, great athleticism. You know, he's able to sit there in meetings and learn from the best in the league. So you hope all of that translates and carries over, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that he's not ever going to be as good as Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I think, do I think Jordan Love's a first ballot Hall of Famer? I don't know.
Which, in fairness, though, I probably would have said the same thing when Aaron Rodgers took over for Favre. So we'll just have to wait and see.
That is the ultimate wait and see. That's the ultimate. All right, who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
Oh, my God. It's got to be Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. The first time in NFL history the home team hosting the Super Bowl has made it to the Super Bowl, they can't go. They can't go. And there's not going to be hardly anyone there for like typical Super Bowl parties where the town is just insane for a full week. None of that's happening. I mean, they're still going to enjoy being in the Super Bowl, but what could have been, man, it would have been the biggest party on the planet.
It definitely would have been. I'm not sure I know how people in Tampa get down. Like, is Tampa Bay? They get down?
Yeah, they get down. You've got a couple of areas downtown. You've got Clearwater right across the causeway. Tampa Bay goes hard.
And none of it's going to happen.
None of it.
Isn't it ridiculous what Tom Brady was able to do there? Like
1 year, no big deal.
You heard Bruce Arians say it in the trophy presentation afterwards, like one guy changed how everyone in that building approached the game.
We talked about that. Whenever you feel like you have a chance to win a Super Bowl, everything changes. Everyone's mentality when they walk in the door every day.
To hear Bruce Arians say that about a player was pretty interesting, though, because normally you're thinking about the leadership. You're thinking head coach, GM, but the head coach saying, hey, yeah, this guy, he's the one that changed everything. I think that really, it just really shows you how great Tom Brady is. Like, obviously, this being his 10th trip to the Super Bowl, yeah, we all know the guy's amazing. Like, we get it. But hearing Bruce Arians say that in front of the entire country, I was like, damn. That is a compliment.
You think Belichick's right now saying, damn it, we should have got him some receivers. Everything could have been different.
That would have been a good idea. Been a good idea. But that being said, they had a pretty good run,
They did, for sure.
They had a pretty
I got to tell you, though, let me ask you this. If Brady wins a Super Bowl, is he off into the sunset, I'm done, or is he back for more?
Oh, I think he's back for more.
He clearly could be back for more, but
the guy's just wondering
I'm just wondering if you get the opportunity for the storybook ending, which is the rarest thing in sports, does he take it or does he come back for another season? I think he loves it and is just going to continue to play, but it is something to think about.
Yeah. The Peyton Manning. But Brady, I mean, Brady still, and he had some bad throws in that game, but like you said, it was cold as shit, and, you know, it wasn't.
I mean, late in the game, he ripped a dagger over the middle, a deep dig route about 18, 20 yards, and it had some juice on it. Looked great. I mean, he's still got tons of punch on the football.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you compare.
Peyton Manning could barely get the ball like 10 yards downfield his last year.
Just think about what we just saw Drew Brees look like.
Yeah.
I mean, Brady's still got it. The guy's still got it. All right, my winners and losers are brought to you by Sound Advice. A lot of us are watching our favorite football teams from home this year, which is why you need to get ready for game day with a home theater system from our friends at Sound Advice. Sound Advice can customize your home entertainment system indoors or outdoors. Sound Advice did the Wi-Fi network and all the audio visual at my new house, and it is awesome. They hide all the wires in the cable boxes, so it looks great, and I can control every TV in my house from my phone. And my Wi-Fi has been flawless for the best home theater systems in the Oklahoma City area. Call Sound Advice at 405-549-3880 or visit soundadviceokc.com. Okay, my winner of the weekend, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you look at the way he played, you look at the stats, they're fantastic. What, 29 to 38, 325, 3 touchdowns. We were concerned about his health coming into the game. It wasn't, you know, people weren't worried about his head. They were worried about his toe. And
he moved around pretty good. He was hobbled a couple of times, but he was moving good, man. Looked like his old self.
All those concerns coming in, and all he did was go out there and completely dominate the football game. His ability to avoid pressure in the pocket and deliver the ball in all kinds of different creative ways. It's just so damn fun to watch. I mean, it really is. He's truly great. I think that we are watching the most talented quarterback that's ever played this game. We're watching him. And that's no disrespect to, you know, Montana or Rodgers or any of those. I just think some of the things Mahomes can do, like, just, we haven't seen other guys do it. And he's also really smart because he gets the ball to his playmakers. It's like, oh, Travis Kelce in the middle of the field.
Well, I mean,
here you
that's
go.
One of the biggest things. He's got, like, not only is he young, incredibly talented, gifted, all of those things, smart, but he's got, like, the perfect complement of weapons for his skill set.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you saw what Kelce was able to do in that game, what Tyreek Hill was able to do in that game. He seems to get them the ball at the exact right times. And it sets up what I assume was the dream scenario for the NFL. You've got Mahomes and the Chiefs going against Tom Brady and Tampa in the Super Bowl in what I think could be the official passing of the torch, if you will. If Mahomes
Cue the passing of the torch articles. Here they come.
They're coming. I just want people to know the passing of the torch articles, they are coming.
Settle in. We got 2 weeks of it.
If my dumbass can think of it, all these smart writers, they're going to stumble upon it as well. They're going to be like, oh, wow, this could be significant and a little symbolic.
Dare I say the passing of the torch?
You dare, Mr. Lehman. You dare. Now, my loser of the weekend, and I still can't believe it. Matt LaFleur, what are you doing? I mean,
damn you, LaFleur.
Damn you, LaFleur. How could you possibly kick a field goal in that situation? I know it's 4th and goal from the 8. I understand. But you're down 8 points with 2 minutes left to go in the football game. How could you possibly think that making it a 5-point game and giving the ball back to Tom Brady was a good idea? I don't understand, like, in that moment, how that decision can feel like the right thing to do. You got to go win the game. And I'd be damned if I'm not going out with the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hand. I mean, come on. What was he doing?
It's one thing if you're like if you're a team that got there by having an incredible defense and you've got a
Right.
young quarterback that you run the football, you kind of protect your quarterback, that's one thing. Whenever your defense is, you put them out on the field. But it's different. You got the best guy in the NFL currently, who's the MVP of the league, and fourth and goal from the 8. It's not really a fourth down. And what I mean by that is when it's 4th and 8 from the 50, it's like, oh my God, the decision isn't, should we go for this? It's the decision there is field position. That's why you don't go for it.
Yeah.
But when it's 4th and goal from the 8, the field position, that's not a factor anymore. So it's not it shouldn't even be a decision, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's why I was so confused. Cause like, if you don't get it, yeah, that sucks, but it's still a 1 possession game and they're backed up.
Yeah. You can even 4th and goal from the 8. I know this would be controversial, but you can even run it on 4th and goal from the 8, because if you don't get it and they get the ball on the 3-yard line, you got Brady who's backed up. You can't make a mistake coming out. They're going to be super conservative.
And he had made some mistakes in that game.
So they're like, we're not throwing it down here. He's already thrown 3 picks today. We're going to hand it off 3 times. We're going to punt it, and we're going to put our defense back out there for one more shot. So you absolutely, without a doubt, you go for it there, and you don't even think twice. You don't even you made that call 5 minutes ago. You're just trying to figure out what play you're going to call for the 2-point conversion.
If the choices are put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands or trust my defense to get a stop so we can hopefully go try to win this game, like, you choose giving the ball to Aaron Rodgers every damn time. I couldn't believe it.
LaFleur in the preseason that I'll give you the chance right now to just jump forward to the NFC Championship game at home. Aaron Rodgers has just had his best season ever. You got 4th and 8. You're down 8, 4th and 8, 4th and goal from the 8. He would say, "Are you kidding me? Of course, give me that over anything else. I want that. I can put the ball in the best player in the league's hands and let him go do something."
I still can't believe it. He's going to regret that decision for a long time, especially if they don't get back there.
You don't even do anything. All you do is, I mean, I know you can win the game, but all you do is give them better field position in the situations the same.
Yeah. He turned a 1 possession game into a 1 possession game. Like, like he still need to go score a touchdown. I don't know. I don't know. But also kind of a subtle loser of this weekend, Bill Belichick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now there's no doubt he's the best NFL coach ever. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but there is a very popular Belichick or Brady debate when it comes to who was more significant to all the success they had there in New England. And boy, this gives Tom some ammunition for that debate, because I still can't believe he shows up to Tampa. Yeah, I know they had a talented roster, but the Bucs are going to the Super Bowl. Like, what?
Yeah, not only did he showed up in Tampa and walked into the wrong house. Did you read that article? He showed up, walked in, he's like, "I'm here. Wait a second, this is the wrong house." No, but in all honesty, here's the thing though. Any player is going to have the advantage because you're the guy out on the field doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like the real work for Belichick was like, he shaped and molded who Tom Brady is. And like the big reason that Tom showed up in the locker room in Tampa, and as Bruce Arians said, everything changed, is because of the culture and the leadership and everything that was, molded under Bill Belichick's program and his system, his way of doing things.
They are one and the same. They're always intertwined. They cannot be completely separated. now.
Quite frankly, the way Bruce
ever.
Arians says it, it almost sounds like it's like, well, what are you there for then, really?
I love the quote where he's like,
do we actually need you, Bruce?
Sometimes I just kind of take a step back and I watch. I just let him do his thing. I'm the cool coach. I'm the cool coach, guys. Okay, Ted, let's finish up with FGTB, Football Guys Talkin Basketball, and that's brought to you by Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School has a long tradition of educational excellence. They know that children need to be in school and are doing everything possible to make that happen. Bishop McGinnis students were welcomed back last August and saw very few interruptions in 2020 with a 12-to-1 student. That's not a word.
Mm-hmm. It is now.
It is. Thank you. Bishop McGinnis students were welcomed back last August and saw very few disruptions. That's not even the word either. It says interruptions. I can't read. With a 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, no student is overlooked. Bishop McGinnis's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available. So it was an interesting weekend in local hoops. Let's start with the Thunder. We found out that the Clippers are a better basketball team than the Thunder. We saw it on two different occasions in that weird Friday-Sunday combo. So yeah, that's kind of how it's supposed to be when you make the Paul George trade, and now that they're finding maybe some more chemistry out there in LA with the Clippers, with the way the Kawhi's playing, with the way Paul George playing right now, some of the pieces they've got around him. Yeah, that's kind of what how I expected those games to go.
Pandemic P, he's back. So no, I mean that's you fully expect that to happen whenever you march a bunch of young, inexperienced players out there against some of the best, like the length, the defense, the shooting ability that they throw out there. It's just, that's what's going to happen. I mean, the separation is stark between the two teams.
Yes, it was. And I watched both games. It was rather obvious that one team had more talent than the other, but it's okay. It's okay because I thought the Thunder Sunday, that was a competitive game. It was a good watch. Like I enjoyed watching the Thunder mix it up, and that one, they're not a very talented team right now. And that's okay because we want them draft picks to be real, real high. But there was something that was really fun this weekend in local basketball, and that is OU beating Kansas. I think it's OU has now won 3 of its last 4 against KU and Norman. That was a really, really competitive, fun game. And I thought the biggest difference was how physical OU was on the boards. I thought that they wanted the game more than the Kansas kids did. They looked like they wanted to go get the basketball more than the players from KU did. They held Kansas to 2 offensive rebounds, which is
nuts.
Insane.
I mean, Kansas is that program is defense and rebounding. Like that's what they pride themselves on. That's how they win. So you hold them to numbers like that. It's awesome. I felt really good about the game. I think maybe they were up 5 with like a minute to go. I felt great about it until Austin Reeves fired the 35-foot 3-pointer with a minute to go.
That was not a great shot. That was not a great shot. But Davion Harmon, I mean, this kid, he's
beast.
He was really good, and he talked after the game. Turns out, I think it was his great grandmother died, something like that, playing the game with a heavy heart, and was pretty emotional about it. And
he was shot out of the cannon, man. He was really the difference early.
Oh hell yeah! I thought that he was great. Kansas fouled way too much, and credit to Austin Reeves, who had that big second half despite a few questionable decisions when it comes to shot selection, but he had that big second half and he did a really good job of getting to the free throw line And that's where I kind of thought that Kansas did some weird things defensively, but overall, this is a big time win for OU, big time win for Lon Kruger. And I just like the way they won the game. Like, they didn't shoot it incredibly well. I thought that they really just played harder than Kansas did. And the team that played with better effort won.
I love that they're playing well. They've won 3 straight now, and that's a big win over Kansas at home. And it's a good thing because they go to number 5 Texas, who has a great chance to win the whole thing this year. Then they have Alabama at home, and if you haven't seen Alabama yet this year, that is a legit basketball team. They're really good. And then after that, they're going back down to Texas Tech. So their next 3 games, 2 of them on the road, they're against, like, these are Sweet 16, Elite 8 basketball teams that we're about to face.
Yeah. So this allows Lon Kruger and the Sooners to carry some momentum into that stretch. So that's that was a good win. And I know it's not sexy, but they won that game because they rebounded and they shot well from the free throw line. Like, I know that's not what people want to hear, but that's the truth.
It was important whenever basketball was first invented, and it'll be important for the duration. It always will be, man. You got to be good on the boards. You got to hit the charity stripe opportunities.
And that's Football Guys Talkin Basketball. All right, episode 80 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Thursday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400. And you can hear me from 3 to 5 on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great week. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.